Mike Sabin.
Thank you, sir. Members, a little perplexed, I feel, sir. Mr. Chairman, I just want to actually acknowledge a few members on the committee, in particular, Honourable Phil Goff. I don't throw too many bouquets across the other side of the House, but on this occasion I will, sir, because actually, and I think right throughout, Mr. Goff has articulated a very, very strong argument, and an argument that does hold a lot of weight. And I think the committee actually tangled with a number of issues because of what we're dealing with here, sir. And there's really, I mean, while we're talking about millions of dollars and we're talking about, veterans' pensions and what have you, I think the point is quite clear, sir, that no one can put a dollar figure on what veterans contribute to the country, the sacrifices that they make, personally, with their families, with their communities and so forth. And that is not just about the Great Wars, sir, but also if we look at the peacekeeping roles, the modern soldiers, sailors and airmen. Am I supposed to use some sort of generic sort of gender format there? I'm not sure. I'm looking across at the Major for guidance, but she's not helping me out at this stage, sir, so I'll stumble on. Sir, but I think there's not a dollar value that can be put on that, and I think actually everyone across the House in dealing with this in the committee actually acknowledged that. I guess where I differ with Mr. Goff in terms of the idea of zeroing out essentially the disability component of it, sir, is point of order, sir. Point of order, sir. Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to have a pretty valid discussion here, and the Green members were just. Well, it seems now that they've calmed down, sir, so we'll carry on.
Look, order. I was just discussing an issue pertinent to the bill with the Minister, and my attention was diverted. If there is an issue, members should raise a point of order, and then we'll deal with it. But let's proceed.
Indeed, sir. Thank you very much. So, the issue that I guess where I differ from Mr. Goff is in terms of the disability. So the 70% became 52%. It's essentially parity from the old system to the new system. And what that essentially acknowledges, sir, is that where someone has a degree of disability, and it comes in many varied shapes and forms, sir, and it's quite a complex equation in terms of measuring that on death, that person that disability will be recognised with a lump sum payment. Now, the issue that I have, if we were to say, right, well, it's only a few $1 million, why trifle with this? Shouldn't we zero that out and everyone get that lump sum payment? Is that, sir, for so long, many have been in a position where they weren't eligible for that and they didn't get that. And it shouldn't be just a matter of timing. That means that should change. Perhaps that discussion should have been had some time ago, a long time ago, and then it could probably hold a little more water. And so, sir, to me it's not really about the value, but it's also about actually recognising those who were recognised as veterans under the scheme as it previously was, as much as it is about recognising those that are currently will be subject to the bill, sir. My father is an ex-naval sailor. So is my uncle. He joined the Navy as a seaman boy, I think, and that's actually how I came to be, sir, because my father ended up marrying my Uncle Lou. That's where my mother came into the equation, and here I am. Yes, no. So, my uncle's. It is a miracle. I know, I am. I'm often puzzled myself how I've come to be. But my uncle's sister, my mother, indeed, sir. And so there's many a story has been told. Oh, hold on. Let me draw it back. I also joined the Navy, sir, and that's where it got really confusing. I'm not sure who I married, sir, at that time. Mr. Chair. I've got to keep going. I've got to keep going with this.
Mike Saban.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Stop digging.
So I also joined the Navy, sir, and spent a couple of very passionate years in the Navy. And I was passionate about service to the country and the role that all servicemen and women play in what is quite a different arena to what it was certainly back when we look back on the Great Wars and some of the major sacrifices and challenges that were made by our servicemen and women at that stage. Sue, but what it did give me was a great appreciation, I guess, of the meaning of military service. And I think David Shearer has certainly pointed out, while he takes issue with it, no one goes to war, sir, or no one joins the military service thinking about what will be at the end of that if they do end up in a confrontation, if they do end up serving their country in that manner. And it's fair to say, sir, that from my experience as an active serviceman and having talked to many veterans since, the passion that they hold and the sincerity that they have about serving their country, none of that really is reflected in any way in a dollar value. What they do want to have reflected, sir, is the importance of their role in serving and upholding what they believe is important to their family, their country, their nation and the world that they live in. And, sir, I don't think it is possible to actually land in a place that would actively reflect that. And actually, in many senses, I don't believe that veterans expect that. But the Minister's SOP that essentially enables all veterans' service to be recognised at the age of 65, so then all veterans would receive the veterans' pension and their spouse at that time. And by maintaining what was the status quo in terms of the equation of disability, meaning that those, what was under the previous legislation essentially migrates through into the new legislation, I think is fair on both the modern day veteran but also those that have passed, sir. And I think that is important to understand, as I mentioned, that it shouldn't just be a case because there's only a few veterans or we're talking about a reduction in that overall disability cost that it should be zeroed out. That's my view, but I do accept that the Honourable Phil Goff raises good arguments as to why that shouldn't be the case. I think that the fact of the matter is, sir, is that it's hard to put a dollar value on that. And lastly, sir, I just want to acknowledge Major Rebecca Thornley and other colleagues on the committee, or the officials on the committee, who provided the committee with very, very sound advice and guidance on what is a very sensitive issue for a number of us on a whole lot of levels. And there's no one in this House, sir, that doesn't take this matter and getting the balance right very, very seriously. So I just want to commend the work of the officials and members across the House on this. While we don't agree on everything, I guess that's the nature of politics to some extent, I personally think it's landing in a pretty good place, and it does recognise and reflect the significant investment in our veterans community. It's a dollar value investment in some senses, sir, but the important thing is that this House recognises the service that veterans give well beyond that. And lest we forget that, sir, this House is surrounded by memorials of that that reflect exactly that service, sir. So I'll leave it at there before I get myself too much more complicated. Thank you, sir.
We have an amendment from the Minister, so the question is that the Minister's amendment set out on Part 2 on SOP number 480 be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. The question now is that Part 2 as amended stand part. Those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. Point of order in Lees-Galloway.
Mr Chairman, I seek leave for parts 3, 4 and 5 to be taken as one question.
Leave is sought for that purpose. Is there anyone opposed to that course of action? There appears not. Leave is granted. So the question now is that parts 3, 4 and 5 stand part. That's the debate on clauses 31 to 144B in Schedules 1 and 2, and the call goes to the Honourable Phil Goff.
Thank you very much, Mr Chairman. I think it makes sense to talk about the three parts together because it combines Scheme 1, which deals with the